Hey everyone, Charles here. And first of all, thank you for stopping by my podcast. If this show inspires you, makes you think, or gives you that courage to jump into action, please help by donating to this show. Click the link in the description and donate. Your donation helps us with production and finding great guests moving forward. Thank you and enjoy.
Amazon is offering sign-on bonuses up to $1,000, plus get up to $20 an hour for select roles. The best part? We're hiring near you. So start now to take home something greater. New, higher wages with a sign-on bonus, a range of real benefits, and career growth opportunities in a top-rated workplace. So earn more and see how great pay and sign-on bonuses can lead to a greater life for you. Go to amazon.com/apply. Amazon is an equal opportunity employer.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another great show. Welcome to The Jump. If this is your first time to the show is all about bringing you interesting guests that have a story to tell that will inspire you to get to that next level and jump. And I don't mean just jump, jumping off the table, the chair. I mean jump in your mind, jump in your spirit, and jump in your heart. I know there's greatness in you. And my next guest coming up, they call him the blind blogger. That's right, the blind blogger. And if you need to know more, stay tuned. Here we go.
You know you should be doing something different, right? Hey, I'm talking to you. Do you believe that you have the gift for greatness or have a special talent, but don't have the courage to take that next step? Always wondering how others made it look so easy? Well, welcome to Jump, the show that will bring you special guests just like you and me. How did they get the courage to jump into greatness? Doing what they love and living the good life. So, get ready to jump with your host, Charles Matthews Jr.
Yes, and like my interesting intro says, interesting guest. And this gentleman is an interesting guest. I researched him, looked online, looked at all the things he's doing. Please welcome to the show, Maxwell. Are you there, my friend?
Yeah, I'm here. And cool. I love applause. I don't get enough of it these days because obviously everything is virtual. So I appreciate that. That's a great way to start the show off.
Great to have you, my friend. Great to have you. So how is COVID dealing with you?
Well, I think, like a lot of my blind friends and I have discussed, many of us were living as if we were in lockdown before we were in lockdown. So,
okay, I get it.
I mean, there are just so many barriers to entry when it comes to going to stores, going to speaking events, even going to the doctor. I'm one of these people. I like to go sighted guide. It's an excuse for me to get to know people and talk to them while I'm getting to my next destination. And it's also one of those things that I show trust and that I expect to meet good people along the way. Well, when I go to the doctor now, I can't go sighted guide. I have to depend strictly on my cane and my sense of hearing to figure out where I'm supposed to go next because nobody wants to touch you.
Yeah.
It's so, just stuff like that where, online is so much easier for a visually impaired person or entrepreneur or parent or whatever. And in fact, I talked to a woman yesterday for my podcast, the What's Your Excuse show, who told me that being a visually impaired parent has become so much easier because everything is online, and anything that's online we can get at with our screen readers. So yeah, COVID has actually been good in general. And for my business, as you know, I help people prepare to be great podcast guests, and I also book them on podcasts and radio shows and other online platforms. So I have a whole new, clamoring group of people who want to do this, but either don't know how or are scared to, or even with COVID, they're just still too busy to really do everything themselves. So that part of it has been pretty good. A lot of new interest, a few new clients, some great new podcasts for me and for those people. And at the heart of it, I'm a storyteller. So getting to help other people have opportunities to tell their stories, that's what I live for.
Now, as you were speaking, I try to put my mind where you are, and I did not, honestly, I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't think of that. I didn't think about what you're going through and thinking about, it's a little different with the lockdown and stuff that you have to deal with. It just never crossed my mind. But now that you mentioned it, I was like, yeah, he's doing something completely different. Everything is new.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's some things that in some ways I've become the cool kid instead of the crazy uncle when it comes to online stuff. But in the in-person stuff, yeah, it's gotten much harder. Wow. And there are stories on from the UK where people have actually been physically assaulted because they weren't able to follow the arrows, the new signage, to figure out that you're only supposed to go one direction through a shopping center. That sort of stuff is lost on blind people. It's even lost on our guide dogs. Not that I have one, but so yeah, the in-person stuff because of Corona got even harder.
Right. And I guess everybody's patience is a little thin right now.
Oh yeah. You put Corona together with national elections, together with racial unrest, together with the fact that people don't talk to each other anymore to begin with, and it's a wonder we ain't shooting our neighbors from across the street.
Yeah. I get it.
It is different times out there, and that's another thing where, like I say, the lockdown for a lot of people that are visually impaired or otherwise disabled, the lockdown has made a lot of things easier. It's also made people more interested or maybe more willing to see the other side of somebody like me. They may not be willing to see the other side of somebody who's a different race or different gender or even different age, but people with disabilities do seem to be getting a little more, if not understanding, at least effort at understanding during this time. And hopefully that'll last. And hopefully the next time you interview a person who is visually impaired and a blogger or a podcaster, it will be someone other than me, because there are, thousands of us out there, authors, musicians, documentary filmmakers. And one of the reasons why I keep sharing my story is I'm hopeful to educate people on the fact that there are a lot of people with disabilities that have talent, that are using their talent every day,
right?
But are going largely unnoticed, because if they were getting noticed, I still wouldn't be the blind blogger. Somebody would be, oh no, man, you're not the blind blogger. There's lots of you cats.
I get that. And let's dive into that, shall we? If you
Sure.
don't mind me asking, when were you always blind? Did you become blind?
Right. I was born, I had perfect vision until I was 4 or 5 years old. And then the family noticed that I was falling down and running into more stuff than the rest of the kids. So they had my vision checked, found out I had retinitis pigmentosa, which is commonly referred to as RP. I lost my vision gradually at first. And then when I entered junior high school, I had a big drop off in vision. It's pretty common that men with RP have a large drop off when they go through puberty. So at that point, I was legally blind, had to learn to use a cane, read Braille, navigate streets with my cane, try to find new ways to do schoolwork. And eventually, things were all audio or tactile, or, can I get somebody to read this for me or do this for me? So my vision was, bad, legally blind, but not totally blind for years. And then by the time I graduated from college, it was down to what I have now, which is light perception, which technically is not total blindness, but I find people understand total blindness more than they understand light perception.
Yes, I totally get what you're saying. Now, the story is that, you're helping others. And this is what I love about this show is I get to find people like you that are doing great things out there. When did you decide, I got to do something? Because you said at an early age.
I didn't decide nothing, man. I haven't I decided stuff, but I haven't instigated anything in 13 years. That's a carnival expression, just in case you didn't know. I have been blessed to be associated with great people, either in person or online. And let's see, about 8 years ago, I met a woman named Adrienne Smith, who I refer to as my blogging mama. That was back when I was solely helping people sell used carnival equipment. And I was trying to get more traffic to my blog and my website. And she taught me everything I know about relationship building online and relationship marketing and marketing through blog commenting and things like that have become pretty much standard in the internet world now. But she was like the rock star, the trail guide, the person who really understood it. And I learned from her. So she started 8 years ago telling me, Max, there is more to you than helping people sell used rides. You have a great story. You need to tell it. And then it took her 2 years to finally explain it to me in a way that I understood, to where I was willing to start sharing more about being a blind entrepreneur and encourage others. She said, Max, I'm going to make it very simple for you. There are millions of people in the world who don't have any physical disability. They have nothing serious standing in their way, keeping them from going after whatever their goal or dream is. But they don't. They sleepwalk through their lives. They do the same things every day. And either through fear or comfort, they've decided that they're not going to go after their dreams. They don't have an excuse. But Max, you've got a perfect excuse. If you wanted to sit at home, watch TV on your couch and eat Cheetos, wouldn't nobody say a word one to you about it? It would be, yeah, he's blind. His family's business is out of business. He doesn't have any reason to push himself or do it. So she's like, Max, you have a perfect excuse. You don't use it. That's what makes you compelling. So, and 2 years later, I finally wrote my first post as the blind blogger, which I didn't choose that name. I actually lost friends when I accepted that name, because there are people who still think that I'm emphasizing the blindness more than I need to. Mm-hmm. But the thing was I was working online to promote the other website, the Midway Marketplace, and people started saying, they just started referring to me as the blind blogger as a means of shorthand, like you do when you're hanging out with people.
You're right.
And so when I started the first post, they were like, Max, if it's available, that's what you need to go with. And the .com was taken, and I don't have the money to buy it away from the person who owns it. So I'm the blindblogger.net. And the thing is that, like I said, I didn't choose the name. I was smart enough to accept it and run with it. It's become a great brand for me. But the first, and I finally wrote my first post. My first post, which is the end of this story, was titled, I think I'm ready to be an inspiration.
See, this is what I love. There's parts in that story. I hope people are listening, because we always talk about, don't let other people stare you down. You're going to have naysayers. And if you had listened to all those naysayers, you wouldn't be where you are today. You wouldn't be on my show, to be honest with you, because I would never have found you.
Well, I have one of that's one of my superpowers. I say that I'm not afraid of the word no. Mm-hmm. So as you know, and as many people have learned over the years, to the point now, some people just refer to me as Max #ask for you. I reach out to people. I say, hey, you should have me on your show, and they're like, well, yeah, I probably should. So, but hey, I spent 15 years booking a small carnival in the state of Texas, where everybody that we competed against had 2 or 3 times as many rides as we did. So I got used to saying no. I got used to understanding that it all came down to determination, perseverance, and that if I just made enough phone calls and asked enough people, eventually we would have a full calendar. And one of the sayings I'm most well known for these days comes from my dad, because back then I would get tired of it. I'd go, I don't want to call nobody else. I'm tired of these people. Mm-hmm. And he would always say, Max, if you don't ask, they can't say yes. Now go ahead and call the next name on the list there.
Oh, see, that's a different one. If you don't ask, they can't say yes.
Yes.
I've always heard it the other way.
I know. I was blessed to be raised around a carnival philosopher and a storyteller, and I've benefited greatly from those. So yeah, I'm actually looking for a graphic artist who can help me put that on a T-shirt. If any of your audience members are artistically talented that want to collaborate with the blind blogger and maybe pick up a little royalty money as the person who come up with the idea, because that's, like you say, it's the exact opposite of how most people say it.
Yeah.
Gretzky is known for saying you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Right.
That's a really good one. But yeah, my dad always said, if you don't ask, they can't say yes, which is, and after a while, what I've noticed has happened with this if you don't ask thing is you start asking for things that maybe you aren't really quite ready or qualified for yet, and people give them to you anyway.
Something? I see where you're going with that. I see what you're going, because you never know the way the universe is, and if you're blessed to take the chance, some blessings come to you. You just have to have enough courage to ask for the blessings.
Yes, yeah, and that's something that I was going to talk to you about because of a couple things you said before we started recording it. In the Bible, it mentions that God will never give us more than we are capable of handling. Mm-hmm. Roughly, that's roughly what it says. And everybody always takes that to mean He's not going to give us a burden, a trial more than we're capable of handling. But have you ever thought that could also apply to blessings? That sometimes He will give us blessings that are bigger than we are right this minute. And the whole point is the blessing is to allow us to grow into the person we need to be in order to appreciate that blessing and enjoy it.
So you're saying that sometimes we don't look for it. It's there. We can achieve it. We can get it if we just, ask and put it forward.
Yeah. Yep.
See, the thing is, I was always wondering, in life, do we have to go get it ourselves? What do we have to do? You know what I mean?
Well, it's interesting you should say it that way, because, we just talked about asking for things. Well, a lot of times asking isn't asking. I mean, sometimes it's things that you focus on in your mind. You think about them, you pray about them, you meditate over them, you worry over them. Sometimes you say things, especially online. I've noticed this with my own experience and others, is you will say things online and you're thinking, I didn't ask for help. I didn't say that I was having a problem with this. But, there are more intuitive people in the world. There are people online who get to know you over time. And so sometimes you're just, replying on Facebook, and the next thing you know, somebody's going, I think that you could use some help with this, and I want to be that person. So sometimes we ask subconsciously with the words we use, either in person or online. And then sometimes we do ask directly by making a phone call or sending an email or writing a letter or filling out a submission form. I love submission forms for asking because, you kind of have a lack of expectation when you fill those puppies out. So there's a lot of stress involved in asking that way. But yeah,
definitely.
We do ask. We do have to ask. But it doesn't have to be, I call Charles up and go, hey, Charles, I want you to invest money in my next project.
Okay.
It could just be, I really need to find some people who believe in me and my goal and are willing to invest a little money so I can get started. It could be something like that. So we ask a lot. Sometimes it's, like I say, sometimes it's just what we think about, what we meditate and pray over. And sometimes it's an actual email.
Sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but I want to ask you a question right here.
Sure.
How many times do you ask before you give up?
I honestly can't answer that question because there's some things I'm still asking for. There are some things I've received that I don't remember asking for. They were blessings. They were things I needed, but I didn't. Great example. I recently recorded a live event called Music and Motivation. I've been talking about doing it for 3+ years. I had been asking past podcast hosts, friends, social media for 3+ years for somebody to help me handle the technical side so I could do it. 4 months ago, I did a podcast interview with Trent Bray of Hustle the Day podcast. He noticed during the podcast interview how much I talked about singing and how, even though it scares me, I enjoy it and love it and people appreciate it. He offers to help me put on this live event And it still took us a couple more months, but the 21st of October, we did it. We had 10 live viewers. We've had over 500 views since it went live. And so it was one of those things I wanted to do, and I just had to keep asking and keep asking. And that's the thing. Sometimes it does take a long time, which is when I try to remember the old W.C. Fields line from. He's famous for this line that's kind of been adopted by people who've had bad experiences with carnival games. He said, "Kid, the only way you can lose is to stop playing or die, and you look really healthy to me."
Amazon is offering sign-on bonuses up to $1,000, plus get up to $20 an hour for select roles. The best part? We're hiring near you. So start now to take home something greater. New, higher wages with a sign-on bonus, a range of real benefits, and career growth opportunities in a top-rated workplace. So earn more and see how great pay and sign-on bonuses can lead to a greater life for you. Go to amazon.com/apply. Amazon is an equal opportunity employer.
So sometimes you just have to keep asking it. And there are some things that I've been asking for that still haven't happened. So, I mean, I'm still asking for my first paid speaking event where they write me a check instead of buying my groceries and putting me in a hotel room.
I get sorry, as a fellow MC, I get that one touched me, and I know that one really well.
Oh, you don't have to apologize. I consider it a sign that I'm having a great interview if I make the host laugh to distraction. That's like 3 and a foul in my world.
Well, that's the great thing, because this is what I want to do with this show. It's just to get to know the person, and someone out there is listening to you going, wait a minute, I've never asked for anything. Maybe I should start asking. And don't be scared to ask. That's the next level of jumping, is knowing what you're worth and trying. And not everybody is going to know your worth, but somebody out there is going to realize the value that you are. So keep asking. So I do love that point. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to have a little fun. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Do you want to achieve your dreams and ambitions? Hi, I'm Carlene Grant, and I'm a life coach. A life coach is great if you want to achieve something more in your life. If you're ready to move forward, launch into something greater, and live your life of excellence. Let me help you get there. You've got this. I'm Carlene, and I'm ready to be your life coach. You can call me at 647-746-7243 or Carlene at ontarioenrichmentcc.com.
Members of Local 79 who work for Bridgepoint Toronto Community Housing and the City of Toronto. My name is Lima Young, running independently in the elections as your Vice President Equity. As a strong, passionate, dedicated leader that continues to advocate for the members for this local since 2009. Check out my Facebook page, Zed Young, space, the soul of the local. Vote Zalima Young, Vice President Equity.
Hey, it's okay if you're driving or too busy to take notes. Charles has your parachute packed with all the info you need to jump into success. Check out the links section for all the tools you need to land safe. Now, let's keep falling with Charles and his special guest.
Yes, we're back with my special guest, Maxwell. They call him the blind blogger, and just going to go through a little game we like to play. You ready, sir?
Yeah, I'm always ready, and I'm very bad at short answers. So I love doing these things because it's like, it's like stretching yourself. It's like it's making yourself uncomfortable is always good, and there aren't a lot of things that really make me uncomfortable other than this kind of segment. So let's do it.
All right, ready? It's called the rapid round. I just fire some questions at you. You give me the quick answers that come to your head, and you can tell a little quick story about it. Ready?
Okay.
All right. What song do you listen to before you jump on stage?
The River, Garth Brooks. Got into my head in 1992 when it was first released. It's it's very symbolic of my life where in 13 years, I've gone from not knowing what a website was to having two of them to being an ambassador, an influencer, etc. So The River by Garth Brooks.
All right. Favorite food?
Chinese food.
Okay. Favorite book that you can remember that you think is inspirational?
I love a book called The Adversity Advantage by Eric Wehemere. And that book is not only a great book for business people, for people wanting to go after their life goals, but it's also a reminder to me that even because he has, done crazy things like, climb Everest and raft to Colorado, that doesn't diminish what I've accomplished or my story. And as long as I don't compare me to him and just do me, everything is great. So he's gone from like the untouchable idol hero to just another guy walking his path while I walk mine. So that's another reason for me to recommend his book and also to recommend Eric Wehemere.
All right. Favorite sport?
Well, I don't really play any sports, so my favorite sport to listen to is hockey.
Okay. Favorite superhero?
I love the fast-paced action and the fact that the announcers actually call the action instead of telling me about whether or not the starting quarterback has made his loan payments or not.
You don't like to hear that he just extended his house and all that stuff?
No, I don't like that stuff. I don't want to know what color I don't want to know how much grass stains are on the front or the back of the jersey. I don't want to know who he's dating or who his wife is or how much money he's making. I just want to know, I just call the damn game. Excuse me. That's
all right.
And hockey is even that way on television, because you would think, okay, on radio, yeah, they'll call the action, but no, for hockey, they also call the action very well on television.
All right. So I'm going to take that a little bit extended since you like hockey so much. Favorite team?
We cheer for the Capitals in this household.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly because they've been the most likely team to stop the Penguins over the last few years, and we are anybody but the Penguins team when it really gets down to it.
All right, we got to convert you to a Leafs team then, the Maple Leafs. We got to convert you over.
I actually liked the Leafs back when they had Cujo.
Okay, so
I thought he was just one mean, bad, kind of guy that. There aren't a lot of goalies who have ever gotten into fights, but I could see him like, well, they're close enough. I'm going to go throw a few.
Favorite superhero?
Okay, I'm gonna go with two. I'm gonna go with me because the blind blogger is becoming a superhero, and I'm gonna go with since I'm only going off the television and movie characterizations. I'm gonna go with Black Widow.
Oh, Black Widow.
Because there's a scene in the first Avengers movie where she's been assaulted by 3 Russians.
Yes.
And she frees herself from a chair, kicks everybody's butt, and puts on her high-heeled shoes and walks out of the room like nothing ever happened. And to me, that's about as bad gets, I mean, and that's off of what's called audio description or narration for those who are wondering, okay, he just described that scene. Is he blind or is he not blind? I listen to a lot of stuff with what's called audio description where they narrate the action. So if that isn't what happened, I would appreciate it if you don't spoil it for me. Okay.
All right. And the last question is, what is your hidden talent?
My hidden talent. I don't know that I have anything hidden. I'm totally unashamed when it comes to asking for things for me and other people. I'll try just about anything. I got a list of 5 things that I won't do. I'm not afraid of being embarrassed. I love to sing, as you know, but I don't know that I have a hidden talent. I'm known for my perseverance, determination, ability to get over heartbreak, disaster, and failure. So hidden talent, I just don't think I have one.
All right. So let's move on from what you just said. You just said I can get over disaster and failures and stuff. How do you do that? Because a lot of people will think, well, I can't do it. And if I do it and I fail, I don't want to fail. How do you move on from failing?
I'm going to give you two answers. You're going to love the second one. You're going to hate the first one. The first one is practice. I have lots of experience in falling on my butt and looking up at where the sky is supposed to be. So that helps a lot. There were many, many times during my days in the carnival business where we were, trying to figure out, okay, this was horrible. How do we get to next week? So practice, and also being raised in a family in a business where, nobody cares what happens to you during the week. All they care about is, can you get open on Friday so they can ride the Ferris wheel and buy a funnel cake? So, also learning that you don't have a choice helps. But for most people that don't really want to go through the time and heartache of practice, it comes down to making a decision. And here's what I like to tell people. I tell them, first you have to decide that there is something positive in what just happened to you. And then you have to keep looking until you find it. I like to say finding the positive after failure is like finding the keys, the TV remote, or your smartphone. It's in the house or the car or your purse, and you just keep looking until you find it. And hey, if you have to clean up the living room and put the furniture back when you're through, so be it. So a lot of it is deciding and then efforting to find the good. And then I would say a third thing would be kind to yourself. Realize that quite often people do everything right, and then sometimes by luck, accident, coincidence, sometimes you can do everything right and still not be successful. Sometimes we are successful in small and medium things, and then we try a big thing, and the big thing doesn't work out, and we think that means that the small and the medium ones were wrong.
Right.
No, often it can just mean you weren't ready for the big time yet. And I have a perfect example of this from my own life. In 2018, I had done several speaking events where things had worked well, and so I booked three events. I was going to speak in Philadelphia at the Mid-Atlantic Podcasters Conference, and then WordCamp New York and WordCamp Pittsburgh. 3 cities in 3 weeks, and then go home. Well, I got sick on the way from Philadelphia to New York, and I couldn't talk. Well, if you can't talk, you can't sell. So I wasn't able to sell any of my books or book any new clients. And I was able to rest my voice during the week, and through the power of lemon tea with honey and wintergreen lifesavers, I was able to give a great talk at the end of the week on Sunday. But I was sick, I was hoarse, I was broke, about to be homeless in New York City. The whole time, though, I'm continuing to reach out to people I know online or to social media in general. And eventually, a guy from California paid for my motel room, and a woman from San Antonio paid for my train ticket back home to Houston. And when I got home from that event, I'm like, Max, this is obviously not your calling in life. You're not meant to be a public speaker, a motivational speaker, any of that stuff. You should just lay here till you feel better and then try to get a real job. That's what you need to do, Max. And I actually posted on social media. I said, okay, y'all, here's what just happened. I'm fixing to put the TV on the Cartoon Network and pull the covers over my head. And the first response I get is from one of my clients, Adriana Gavazzoni, an author from Brazil. And she's like, Max, you gave me a good laugh, but we both know this won't last more than 72 hours.
Right.
And eventually she was partially right, because I had to get physically well again. I was dehydrated, lack of coordination. I couldn't talk. I couldn't sing. I would say it was probably 2 months before I was completely recovered from that experience to the point. And what I did was I said, okay, Max, maybe you shouldn't have been that aggressive. You got out over your skis a little bit. So I invoked a rule for myself that I was no longer going to take a speaking event or be part of anything outside of Houston, Texas, where they didn't write me a check, pay for my expenses, or both. And so you know what happened?
You learned from your mistakes.
Yeah. And you know what happened? As soon as I said it to myself and started putting that out in the world, people in Houston started showing up wanting to give me the microphone. And people in other cities started showing up willing to pay my expenses. You know, it was like, you know, Max, if you're willing to bang your head against the wall and do all of this on your own effort, we'll let you. But, you know, once I said, hey, this is enough, I'm not gonna put myself in that situation again, then opportunities that were better suited for me, that were less stressful on me, they started showing up. And, you know, a year and a half ago, I got to speak at Podfest in Orlando. And back in October of this past year, I went to Erie, Pennsylvania for a week and spoke at 3 different events because the organizer's like, if I'm going to have to pay him to come here, I'm going to work his ass good, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And you don't mind doing that because you're getting exposure, you're showing people what you're worth and showing him that, yes, you paid for me, I'm going to give you the 110% you paid for.
Yeah. So back to your point, I learned from my mistakes. I adopted new rules that respected me and my talents and that I deserved to be rewarded for my story and my ability to tell it. And things have improved. So just because you fail, a lot of times what happens is, you know, is people, they've been trying it for a month or a few months or a few years, and they're like, I haven't had that big stand up and cheer moment. I haven't had that moment where my bills are paid for the next 3 or 4 months. And so I'm not a success yet, or I'm a failure, to use the less positive word. When really it's just a matter of either they tried to go too big too soon, or they are just needing to continue to do the work. And I tell you, that one is the one that I hate the most. When my friends tell me that, I'm like, I don't want to hear that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Max, just keep doing what you're doing. You're going to get there. I'm sorry. That ain't no fun. Give me something else. But, you know, a lot of times it does come down to, hey, being kind to yourself and reminding yourself, look, I'm doing great work. Maybe I haven't gotten as much notice as I would like or as much pay as I would like, but I am doing great work. And a lot of times you just have to go, hey, I get great satisfaction from what I'm doing. I help others. I benefit the world. You know, find the joy in what you're doing. And, you know, sooner or later, you'll find the pay in it too. So, you know, that's a very long answer. I've had podcast hosts who keep telling me I need to get practice giving shorter answers. But, you know, if I have to start doing that, then I'll have to start booking different shows, you know. But I mean, it's one of those questions there really is not a good answer to. I mean, to tell people how to overcome failure, that's one of those things. I can tell them 3 or 4 things that have worked for me or worked for other people, and I can tell them great stories. But it's still one of those things. Is like, man, he doesn't know he doesn't know me. He doesn't know my problems or he doesn't know how many times I've fallen on my butt. Well, I'm telling you, my score is probably bigger than your score. So, you know, decide to find the positive, be kind to yourself, and keep after it, because sometimes it really just does come down to continuing to do the work before you see the results of the work. There's a great line in the Bible that faith is belief in things not yet seen, and that's a hard one to remember. But quite often it applies to us entrepreneurs, especially us creative entrepreneurs, that we have to do the work and believe the money's coming, or believe the notoriety's coming if you're working on a nonprofit passion type hustle. So
there's something you just said right there. I was gonna end it with another question, but I have to dive this question in real quick.
Sure.
Most times you said faith is there is something we believe. It's there, but we just don't see it yet. Okay.
Yes.
That's hard.
That's not me. That's the Bible.
Yeah, but that's hard for a lot of people.
It's hard for me.
A lot of people want to see results right away. They say, yes, okay, I'm going to go on stage. I'm going to write a book. Oh, this book is going to be great. But then when they don't see the book sell in the first 3 months, they think, oh, it was a bad idea. Oh,
3 months, 3 days, man. Come on.
Hey, I was trying to stretch it a little bit. You know what I mean?
I've got friends who are authors. I've had those conversations in the middle of the night where I have to talk people off the roof because they haven't sold 100 copies or 1,000 copies, and they can't find their book on the Amazon bestseller rankings. You know, I mean, it is hard. It's hard for me, and that's one of the things I love that you asked that question, because I get tired of seeing people on podcasts like this and even on mine where they make it sound like everything is easy and that they are totally 100% successful and that they don't never struggle with anything. But I struggle with this, doing the work, believing that the notoriety, the money is coming.
Mm-hmm.
I like to tell people I'm personally successful. I'm satisfied with my work, and it's just a matter of time before my piggy bank catches up with me. That one doesn't work too well on a T-shirt, but I'm working on it. But the point is, we all struggle with this. Even people that appear successful struggle with it. Here's something I've learned from interviewing people. It doesn't matter how many times somebody has published a book or recorded an album. The next time they send that content off to the publishing platform, they're scared.
Yep.
They're afraid. Yep. The gremlins have come back and said, who the heck do you think you are? What makes you think people want to read your stuff or listen to your music? That happens every time. Paul McCartney, Sir Paul McCartney, one of the greatest to ever live. He did a 60 Minutes interview few years ago where he said even now he doesn't feel he's good enough. That's Sir. I mean, he admitted that one time they recorded an album, he called the other three members of the Beatles up the next day and said, we've got to re-record it. We recorded the whole album in the wrong key. And they told him to go back to bed and to leave them alone. And they released it, and it was yet, another big hit. I don't remember which album it was, but it was in that interview. So nobody ever gets past this feeling of they're not good enough or it ain't happening fast enough. Mm-hmm. Every once in a while somebody gets so famous that then they complain about, man, I wish people would just leave me the heck alone. I can't go to the grocery store no more. So but yeah. I deal with it. I imagine with your podcast, you deal with it, that things aren't happening quickly enough. You're not seeing the results, and it's hard to just keep doing the work. Yeah. And I think one of the most important things we can do as people that are out here in the world that people look to is let them know they're not alone. And we're not talking about our other listeners. We're talking about me and Charles here. We have those exact same feelings, y'all. And sometimes more than once a day we'll have that feeling, and it's usually caused by, I don't know about you, Charles, I don't want to speak for you, but with me it's usually caused by one of two things. Either I get a bill for something that I know I'm supposed to be paying for, but I forgot that it was coming. Yeah. And it comes on a day when I'm like, okay, is this going to clear the bank, or am I going to get a $32 fee for having insufficient funds right this minute? That's one time it happens. The other time it happens is when one of my relatives or one of my close friends goes, how much money do you make from writing? Or when are you going to give up on this stuff and actually go get a job? Couldn't you be a teacher or something? So it happens to all of us.
So what we do is not a job then?
Oh, it's a job. It's a job. It sometimes could be categorized as a hobby according to the IRS tables on income, but here's the thing: you got to remember, why are you doing it? And you can have more than one motive. You can say, I want to help others by sharing empowering stories, which is probably the number one goal for me and Charles. But you can also say that you don't want to have to spend your own money to produce the podcast. That you want to make enough money from the podcast to where you don't have to take money out of your primary income to pay for it.
Yeah.
You can say, hey, I want to have a big time sponsor. I want to make six figures. You can do that. But a lot of times, even people who appear successful, they started off having these same issues that we do. I was blessed to interview John Lee Dumas a while back. And for people who may not know who he is, if you're not in the business world, he's one of the biggest names going in podcasting in the business niche. And he talked to me about the first few times he hooked up the microphone. His hands were shaking so bad his guests almost canceled on him because they couldn't hear themselves over the rattling of his notes. And he did a show every day for 3 years before he became rich and famous at it. So think about that. Imagine you're that guy and you're doing a podcast every day for a year, 2 years, 3 years, just hoping that at some point you'll be able to monetize that. You'll be able to turn it into something. And he has. It's worked for him. But it doesn't work for everybody. And even for the ones it does work for, they all have those times when they're like, man, this ain't happening fast enough. So,
I can attest to that. Trust me.
and I think that's one of the most important things we can do for people is to be real and let them see that they're not the only ones who have those fears, who have those struggles. Another thing I like to make sure that I talk about before I finish a podcast, even if I sometimes have to go long overtime to do it, is most people are not doing this by themselves. It may look like they're the only person on the screen, or they're the only person that you talk to, or they're the only one that signs the blog post, but most of us have a team. Some people are blessed. Those team members are paid for. Others, it's friends, family, spouses, girlfriends, ex-girlfriends. Sometimes the dog or the cat, just some of us, whoever we can grab that has the ability and the skills and is willing to do it for what we can afford to pay them at that moment, or willing to do it in exchange for us doing something they need done. Hey, that's one of the things I love, is finding something that other people need that I'm good at, so that I can get them to do stuff that I stink at. I enjoy doing that, and it's perfectly fine.
And that's what we do.
But I like to make sure people understand this. A lot of this online stuff, especially the more successful people get at it, but even in the beginning for some of them, is like the Wizard of Oz. If you can find a good puppy dog named Toto to pull that curtain aside, you'll see that it's just, that there's a lot of other stuff back there making it all go. But they keep that behind the scenes. They keep that behind the curtain. They don't let you see their team. They don't give credit to people that have helped them along. I just realized this is I did. I gave credit to Adrian Smith. I'm kind of known as a name dropper. And I was just fixing to say, this is the first podcast I've done in a long time, but I didn't mention one of the people who's been part of my journey. And then I remember, I mentioned Adrian. So, but well, I usually...
That's what we find out, that people help you along the way. So if you want help, make sure you go to his website, theblindblogger.net, and that's .net. Make sure you go to theblindblogger.net. And, listening to what you're saying and listening to that, there's people all around. It's smoke and mirrors in the beginning. You have to get there. But once you get there, it's a lovely feeling. It might not happen now, but when it does, you'll be grateful. My friend, it's been a pleasure and an honor having you on the show.
Well, thank you, Charles. It's been my pleasure to be here. I appreciate your patience in the beginning, waiting for me to get through my technical issues so I could show up. And I think we ended on the best note possible when you said, when it does happen, you have to be grateful, because I think far too people have a vision board, but I don't think near enough people have a gratitude board. We need to take time and make lists every day to be more grateful for what we have accomplished, instead of whining and moaning about the stuff that hasn't happened yet. So thank you. And I really do appreciate the work and time and money you put into having a great show. And I feel like I made a new friend today. So thank you for that.
Thank you, my friend. Stay great. Like I said, everybody, you didn't have to listen, but I'm glad you did. Thank you. And take that chance and jump. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening. If you liked the show or have a comment, we would love to hear from you. Join our mailing list. And as always, check out our special deals links below. I hope this has inspired you to look at your life and jump. See you next week.
Amazon is offering sign-on bonuses up to $1,000, plus get up to $20 an hour for select roles. The best part? We're hiring near you. So start now to take home something greater. New, higher wages with a sign-on bonus, a range of real benefits, and career growth opportunities in a top-rated workplace. So earn more and see how great pay and sign-on bonuses can lead to a greater life for you. Go to amazon.com/apply. Amazon is an equal opportunity employer. Amazon is offering sign-on bonuses up to $1,000, plus get up to $20 an hour for select roles. The best part? We're hiring near you. So start now to take home something greater. New, higher wages with a sign-on bonus, a range of real benefits, and career growth opportunities in a top-rated workplace. So earn more and see how great pay and sign-on bonuses can lead to a greater life for you. Go to amazon.com/apply. Amazon is an equal opportunity employer.
Hey, hope you had a great time listening to the show. If you think I did a great job, please buy me a coffee. I still got a lot of work to do. We would love to hear from you, your feedback, so please click the link and leave us a review. You can help us grow by following us on all social media platforms and sharing this link. Once again, it's time for you to jump. Success is waiting.